Growing up in extreme poverty deprived me of certain opportunities in life. But the Boys and Girls Club was the place where I had the hope for a brighter future and the opportunity to realize my full potential. When I walk through those club doors, I feel loved. I feel strengthened. I feel invincible. And I feel incredibly happy and thankful. The thing was, when I was younger, I was not the best kid. I had a lot of problems, mainly because back in Chicago, I ran with a group that stole a lot out of stores and convenience stores and shopping marts. And so I brought that same negative attitude back down here to LaGrange and got into a couple of different situations. And one summer my mom said, well, I just can't have you out there in those streets coming home by yourself. She was working 2 jobs to support my brother and I at that time she was single. And so what happened...
How old were you at the time?
I was about 9. I've been in the club about 10 years now. And so that summer she said, she asked around and said, where can my kid go? And some people said, well, you know, I take my kid to the Boys and Girls Clubs. And she said, all right, I'll put him in there. And I hated it. I hated going somewhere. I hated having to follow rules. But I remember the defining moment and the turning point when I was in the club was when I was named Local Youth of the Year. I remember they all said, everybody in the club has to write an essay about what the Boys and Girls Club means to me. And I said, I was like, whatever, I have to do it, let me do it. I did it, and I remember we went to a Christmas banquet, and they said, and the winner of our Local Youth of the Year for this year is Demetrice Tuttle. And I almost flipped out. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. One, is this a joke? Because I didn't expect myself to be that. You know, I was the kid who used to be in 4th grade. I was cursing out teachers and getting referrals, let alone being named Youth of the Year. So that was a turning point in my life, and then more so, the club was a place where I had the opportunity to change my life. I grew up in extreme poverty. When I moved to LaGrange, like I said, my mother was struggling with 2 jobs. So sometimes we're homeless, and more times we lived in houses that weren't even suitable for third world countries. I remember one house I lived in West Point where I had to take a bath in a tub you would wash like your dog in, because the pipes in the house didn't work. But those experiences and those movements really have changed my life, and the Boys and Girls Club has given me the opportunity to come out of those current obscurities. I always say something, I use an analogy that I came up with. You know, when you drive into Atlanta and you see those gorgeous skyscrapers, but what you don't see is the foundation that makes up those skyscrapers, the pipes and the steel beams and the concrete. And I said, I'm going to take all those negative experiences in my life and make them my steel beams, my concrete, and my pipes, and I'm going to build a gorgeous, beautiful, architecturally sound skyscraper on top of that. And so when you drive into Atlanta, you'll see my skyscraper. In my community, one of the biggest issues is poverty. And the lack of initiative that a lot of kids face. And I think the Boys and Girls Club takes those kids, says, hey look, we've got somewhere where you can go, you can be safe, you can have fun, and you can learn and grow within yourself and within this environment. I read a book by a man named Stephen M. Gower, and he said, there's no way you can motivate yourself in life, but there is a way where you can create a motivational environment. And our club creates that motivational environment where kids come in and go, well, just because I have this at home, just because my mom there might be some problems with drugs in my home or gangs in my home, I still have the opportunity to come out of that and be in this motivational environment where I can build myself up.